she never meant to step into his world. Just one rainy evening in Seoul, one scared boy cornered in an alley, one moment where Kioma, strong, steady Kioma, said no. Without shouting, without hesitation. She met the men's eyes and claimed the boy as if he were already hers to protect. 3 days later, a stranger appeared at her office door. Tall, quiet, eyes that carried too much. Minye. He thanked her, offered money she wouldn't take, then left. But that night, on her usual walk along the Han River, she felt it, someone watching, not threatening, just there. 30 meters away, hands in pockets, staring at the water like it held answers he couldn't find. He didn't speak. Neither did she. They simply sat on separate benches as the city lights fractured across the dark current. Two strangers breathing the same cold air. Two people who shouldn't have anything in common, except the silence that felt safer than words. And in that silence, something began. Something neither of them could name yet. Something that would cost them both. Kioma's story starts here. Hello, family. Where are you watching from? Kindly drop it in the comments so I can send special appreciations to you. And most importantly, hit the subscribe button to subscribe to this channel. Now let's go deep into the story. The rain had been falling in thin sheets all afternoon, the kind that soaks through without drama. Kioma pulled her hood tighter and cut across the alley behind the community center, shortcut to the subway. That's when she saw him, the boy, maybe 16, back pressed to the brick wall, eyes wide. Two men in dark coats stood too close, one murmuring low, the other holding the boy's sleeve like it was a leash. She didn't think, just stepped forward. He's coming with me, she said, voice calm but carrying. The men turned. One laughed short, surprised. The other stared longer, assessing. Kioma met his eyes without blinking. The boy slipped free in the hesitation, darted past her shoulder and vanished around the corner. The men didn't chase. They just looked at her, long enough for the rain to drip from their brims, then walked away without a word. She stood there breathing, heart knocking against her ribs, wondering what she'd just done. 3 days later, the office door opened while she was sorting visa forms. A man stepped in. Tall, tailored coat still damp at the shoulders, face composed in a way that felt practiced. He bowed slightly. "Thank you for what you did," he said in careful English. "The boy, he is safe now." Kioma set the papers down. "I didn't do it for thanks." He placed an envelope on the desk. Thick, she didn't touch it. "I'm Minyi," he said after a beat. When she didn't respond, he added, quieter, "I won't come here again if you don't want me to." She studied him. Something in his posture, straight but tired, made her pause. "Keep the money," she said finally, "and tell the boy to stay out of alleys." He nodded once, took the envelope back, and left without another word. That evening she walked the Han River path like always, earbuds in but no music playing. The city lights shimmered on the water, fractured. Halfway along the bench she usually sat on felt watched. She glanced over. Minyi stood 30 meters away, hands in pockets, looking at the river instead of her. He didn't approach. Neither did she. But she sat anyway, and after a long minute he walked closer. Not beside her, just to the next bench. They stayed like that until the lamps came on fully, two people, silent, breathing the same cold air. She wondered, as she finally stood to leave, if he'd still be there tomorrow. He was. Not every day, sometimes 3, sometimes 5. Always the same pattern. He'd appear farther down the path, wait until she sat, then move to the adjacent bench. No greeting, no small talk at first, just the river and the wind and the long stretches where neither spoke. Kioma found herself noticing things. The way he never checked his phone. The faint scar along his left knuckle when he rested his hands on his knees. How his shoulders eased, just a fraction, after the first 10 minutes of quiet. One evening she brought a thermos of ginger tea, poured a cup for herself, then, after a pause, held the second cup out without looking at him. He took it, their fingers didn't touch. "Thank you," he said softly. She nodded, sipped, the tea warmed her palms. After that the silences felt different, not empty, full of things unsaid. She told him once, voice low, about Port Harcourt. Not the tourist version, the smell of diesel and roasted plantain at dusk, the way her mother's laugh could cut through any argument, how leaving felt like carrying a piece of home in her chest that never quite settled here. He listened without interrupting. When she finished, he stared at the water a long time. "My sister," he said eventually. "She liked the river too. Used to drag me here when we were kids, said it made the city feel smaller." He stopped. Kioma waited. He didn't continue. "That's enough for tonight," she said gently. He looked at her then, really looked. Something flickered in his eyes. Gratitude, maybe, or recognition. The next time he brought a small paper bag. Inside, red bean buns still warm from a bakery nearby. She took one, broke it in half, offered him the other piece. They ate in silence. Later, as the sky turned indigo, he spoke again. "There are people who might come looking for the boy, or for me, if they do." "Don't finish that sentence," she cut in, not sharp, just firm. "I know what your world is. I choose my own risks." He exhaled slowly. "You shouldn't have to." She met his gaze. "Maybe I want to." The words hung between them, heavy and honest. When she stood to go, he stayed seated, watching her walk away. She felt his eyes on her back the whole way home, and realized she wasn't afraid. The warnings started small. A mother at the center whispering that strange men had asked about the woman who helps with papers. An anonymous call to the office line, calm voice asking if Kioma still walked by the river. She told no one, not yet. Minyi noticed anyway. One evening he arrived earlier than usual. Sat closer, only one bench between them now. The air felt tighter. "You heard something," she said, not a question. He nodded once. "They're using old debts, pressuring families to get to me. Your name came up." Kioma's stomach turned cold, but her voice stayed even. "Because of the boy." "Because of me." He looked at her then, eyes raw in a way she'd never seen. "I should have stayed away." "Don't," she said quietly. "Don't do that." He rubbed a hand over his face. "I run things, people get hurt. My sister." His voice cracked just barely. "I couldn't protect her. I won't let that happen again, not to you." Kioma felt something shift inside her chest. Not fear, sorrow maybe, for him. She moved then, first time she'd crossed the invisible line. Sat on his bench, close enough their shoulders almost brushed. "I'm not fragile," she told him, "and I'm not leaving Seoul." He turned to her, the city lights caught in his eyes. For a moment neither breathed. "I know," he whispered. "That's why this hurts." They sat like that until the wind picked up. She reached into her bag, pulled out the small notebook she carried for notes on cases, tore out a blank page, wrote her phone number, folded it once, placed it in his palm. "In case you ever need to talk," she said, "or just sit somewhere else." He closed his fingers around the paper like it was glass. When she stood, he rose too. They walked together for the first time, slow, side by side, no words. At the bridge she stopped. "Good night, Minye." He looked down at her. "Good night, Kioma." She turned away, took 3 steps. Then she heard it, soft, almost lost in the traffic. "Wait." She turned back. He stepped closer, not touching, just near enough she could see the pulse at his throat. "If I disappear one day," he said, voice low, "it's not because I wanted to." Her throat tightened. "I know." He nodded, once. Then he walked the other direction, into the dark stretch of path where the lamps barely reached. Kioma stood there long after he was gone, listening to the river carry his absence away. She wondered if he'd ever use the number, or if this was already goodbye. The first call came 2 nights later. Kioma was washing dishes in the tiny apartment kitchen when the phone buzzed, unknown number. She dried her hands slowly, staring at the screen like it might speak first. She answered on the 5th ring. "Kioma." His voice was quieter than she remembered, almost swallowed by background wind. "Minye." A long pause, just breathing on both ends. "I shouldn't be calling," he said finally. "Then why are you?" Another silence. She could picture him, standing somewhere dark, collar turned up, river somewhere near. "Because I keep thinking about what you said, that you choose your own risks." She leaned against the counter, and I don't want to be one of them. The words landed soft, like stones dropped in deep water. She closed her eyes. "You already are." Nothing for almost 10 seconds. I know, he whispered. They didn't speak much after that, just stayed on the line, listening to each other exist. The faint hum of soul traffic on his end, a distant motorcycle on hers, the kind of quiet that feels intimate because neither tries to fill it. When he finally spoke again, his voice was rougher. They're moving faster than I thought, asking questions about the center, about you. Her stomach tightened. What kind of questions? The kind that mean they're planning something. She exhaled slowly. Then what do? We don't do anything. You stay away from the river, from me. No. Kioma. No, she repeated firmer. I'm not hiding. He let out a sound, half laugh, half sigh. You're impossible. Maybe. Another pause, longer this time. I have to go, he said suddenly, but thank you for answering. She swallowed. Call again if you need to. He didn't promise, just murmured something too low to catch, then the line went dead. She stood there, holding the phone, long after it went silent. The kitchen light felt too bright. The apartment too empty. Later, she walked to the window and looked toward the river she couldn't see from here. Wondered if he was still standing in the dark somewhere, listening to the same water. And whether the next call would be goodbye. It happened on a Tuesday. One of the mothers from the center, Mrs. Adebio, came in early, face tight. She pulled Kioma into the small back room and shut the door. 2 men were outside my building last night, she whispered. Asked if I knew the woman who helped my son with school papers. Asked if I'd seen her with anyone Korean. Kioma felt the floor shift under her. What did you say? I said nothing, but they knew your name. They left this. She handed over a folded note. Plain paper, neat handwriting in English. Tell your friend the river isn't safe anymore. Kioma stared at it until the letters blurred. That evening she didn't go to the path. Instead she sat on her couch, knees drawn up, phone in hand. No call came. Around 11, a soft knock at the door. Her heart slammed once, hard. She checked the peephole, empty hallway. When she opened it anyway, a small envelope lay on the mat. No name. Inside, a single photo of the community center taken from across the street. Someone had circled her office window in red ink. Her hands shook as she locked the door again. She didn't cry, just sat on the floor with her back to the wall, phone clutched like a lifeline. It rang at 1:47 a.m. She answered without looking. Are you hurt? Minnie's voice urgent, stripped. No. A ragged exhale. They were at the center. Yes. Silence, then, I'm ending this. How? I'm giving them what they want. A meeting tomorrow night. After that, I disappear. Her throat closed. Disappear where? Away, far enough they won't look here anymore. Minnie. I'm sorry, he cut in, soft, final, for bringing this to your door. She pressed the phone harder to her ear. Don't apologize, just come to the river first, one last time. He was quiet so long, she thought the call dropped. Then, tomorrow, sunset. The line clicked off. Kioma stared at the dark screen. Tears came then, quiet, steady. Not for the threat. For the man who thought vanishing was the only way left to protect her. Sunset bled orange across the hand. Kioma arrived early, sat on their bench, the one they'd silently claimed, hands folded tight in her lap, coat collar up against the wind. He appeared 20 minutes later. Walked straight to her this time, no distance, sat beside her, close enough their sleeves brushed. Neither spoke at first. The river moved slow and dark below them, lights starting to flicker on across the water. I'm sorry, he said eventually, voice low, for all of it. Don't. He looked at her then, eyes shadowed. You deserve better than this. I decide what I deserve. A faint, broken smile touched his mouth. Stubborn. Always. They sat in that familiar quiet, but tonight it felt different, thinner, like the air itself knew this was the end. She reached into her pocket, pulled out the small scarf she'd worn the first night they met, folded it carefully, placed it in his hands. For when it's cold, she said, simple. He stared at the fabric like he'd never seen color before, closed his fingers around it slowly. I don't know how to do this, he admitted, barely above a whisper. Let someone matter and then leave them. Her chest ached. Then don't leave. He shook his head. If I stay, they come for you, your center, the families. Everything you built. She looked away toward the river. And if you go, I keep you safe. That's all I have left to give. Tears burned behind her eyes. She refused to let them fall. He shifted closer. Their shoulders touched now deliberate, the first real contact. She felt his warmth through the layers, steady, alive. I wish, he started, stopped, tried again. I wish I'd met you before all this. She turned to him, faces inches apart. Me too. For one heartbeat, the world narrowed to just them. The river, the wind, the almost touch of foreheads. Then he pulled back, gently, like it hurt to do it. I have to go, he said. She nodded, couldn't speak. He stood, looked down at her one last time, memorizing. Take care of yourself, Kioma. She forced the words out. You too. He walked away, slow at first, then faster, into the gathering dark where the path curved out of sight. She stayed on the bench until the sky turned full black, until the cold seeped into her bones, until she couldn't pretend he might come back. When she finally stood, the scarf was gone with him, and something inside her felt gone too. She whispered his name once to the river. It carried the sound away. No answer. Just water, moving on without them. The next 24 hours passed in fragments. Kioma went through motions at the center, filing papers, smiling at children, answering questions, but her mind stayed on the river path. On the way his voice had cracked when he said goodbye, on the scarf now gone with him. She checked her phone too often. No calls, no messages. Just silence that grew louder. Late afternoon the following day, Mrs. Adebyo pulled her aside again, face pale. They came back, she whispered. Not to my place, to the center. 2 men, polite this time, asked if you were in, said they had a donation for the youth program. Kioma's pulse spiked. Did you tell them anything? I said you were out. They left a card. No name, just a number and for Minyi. Kioma took the card, plain white, black ink. The number matched none she knew. She stepped outside to the small balcony overlooking the street, dialed it before she could think better. It rang twice. A calm male voice answered in Korean, then switched to accented English when she didn't speak. You're the woman from the river. Her grip tightened. Where is he? A soft chuckle. Meeting us tonight to settle things. He asked us not to touch your center or you, generous considering. If you hurt him. We won't, not if he cooperates. He's tired of running, wants it over. The line went dead. Kioma stood there until the sun dipped low. Wind tugged at her coat. She felt hollow, like something vital had already been carved out. She walked to the river anyway. Not their bench, just the railing near the bridge where he'd last looked back at her. She waited. Dusk settled, lights came on. No footsteps, no silhouette. Only the water moving steadily onward, indifferent. She whispered to it, barely audible. Come back. Nothing answered. When full dark arrived, she turned away. The card burned in her pocket like a promise she didn't want to keep. She knew what he was doing tonight, sacrificing the last piece of himself to buy her safety. And she hated him for it, almost as much as she understood. 3 days. No word. The center stayed quiet. No more visitors, no notes, no shadows at the windows. The rival faction had what they wanted. Menye. Kioma worked longer hours, filled every gap with tasks so her mind couldn't wander. But at night, the apartment felt too still. She kept the phone on the nightstand, screen up. It never lit. On the 4th evening, she walked the path again. Sat on their bench. The wood was cold through her jeans. She pulled her knees up, rested her chin there. Watched couples pass, families, joggers. Life moving around the empty space he used to fill. A young man approached, nervous, glancing over his shoulder. Korean, early 20s, hood up. He stopped a few meters away. Looked like he might run. You're Kioma, he asked quietly. She nodded once. He stepped closer, handed her a small folded paper, no envelope, just creased. He said, if anything happened, give this to you. She took it, fingers steady even though everything inside shook. The boy bowed quickly, awkward, then hurried off into the dark. Kioma unfolded the note slowly. One line, his handwriting neat, restrained. I kept my promise. Stay safe. MJ asterisk. Underneath, a tiny sketch. The river, 2 benches. One empty. She stared until the ink blurred. Then she pressed the paper to her chest. Closed her eyes. Let the wind take the tears she'd held back for days. No scream, no collapse. Just quiet breaking. She sat there until the lamps buzzed overhead and the path emptied. Until the cold forced her to stand. She folded the note carefully, tucked it inside her coat, next to her heart. Walked home the long way. Past the center, past the alley where it began. Every step felt heavier. But she kept walking. Because stopping would mean admitting he wasn't coming back. And she wasn't ready for that yet. Weeks blurred into months. The center thrived. More families, more grants, more laughter in the halls. Kioma smiled when she needed to, spoke firmly, helped without hesitation. People said she seemed stronger. She let them believe it. But every evening, when the day ended, she walked to the Han. Not every day. Just often enough that the path remembered her footsteps. She never sat on their bench anymore. Instead, she stood at the railing. Watched the water carry lights downstream. Listened for something that never came. One dusk in early winter, snow dusting the air like quiet confetti, she brought the thermos again. Poured 2 cups. Set one on the railing beside her. Watched steam rise and vanish. The second cup stayed untouched. Cooling slowly. She spoke to the river, soft. Like he might still hear. I'm okay, she said. The center's good, the kids are good. A pause, wind lifted her hair. I still choose my risks, just fewer of them now. She looked down at the dark current. I don't hate you for leaving. I hate that you thought it was the only way. The snow thickened, flakes caught on her lashes. She lifted her cup. Took a slow sip. The ginger burned gentle on her tongue. I hope you found a place where the weight feels lighter, she whispered. I hope you forgave yourself. Even a little. She set the cup down. Let the snow cover it. Then she turned away from the water. Walked back toward the city lights. No glance behind. No waiting. But as she reached the bridge, she paused. Just once. The wind carried the faintest echo. Traffic, water, distant laughter. Nothing more. She exhaled, long, slow. And kept walking. The river flowed on behind her. Carrying 2 cups. One empty. One half full. An unfinished story. A love that never had time to speak its name aloud. And somewhere, maybe far, maybe not, a man who still carried a scarf. Still remembered a woman who looked at him like he could be more than his mistakes. Neither knew if the other still breathed the same air. But the hand kept moving. And so did they. Each carrying the quiet ache of what might have been. To be continued.